Hi, stock investors. JJ here. Welcome back. We've got Dan Ives from Wedbush responding to Tesla. Tesla earnings today, of course, just for context, we have right now Tesla down on the day 2.04%. And then after hours, when earnings came out, down 7.77%. It was down a bit more than that last time I checked. So recovering a little bit. But let's see what Dan Ives has to say about it. He's very bullish. Keep that in mind.
Shares of Tesla sliding as the company prepares to report results after the bell. The EV maker experiencing a rocky start to the year in which it cut more than 10% of its headcount and saw its second quarter deliveries decline. Here with me at Post 9 to discuss what investors are focusing on and what lies ahead for the company is Wedbush's Dan Ives. You see there Tesla down 1%. So, Dan, year to date, it's actually kind of flat. It's been quite a ride. You know, it goes down to 175 and pops back up to current levels. Over the course of the year so far, also because earnings estimates for the year have gone down, it's, you know, stated PEs from like 65 above 80 now. Yeah. So where does that leave us? I mean, what does the company have to show in order to convey that there's some progress on the important stuff?
I think, again, for context, this was recorded just before earnings came out. They were pretty lackluster, not beating. So, and Elon Musk said it all depends on robo-taxis, and he mentioned robots as well. But really, he did say don't buy the stock if you don't believe in robo-taxis, that they're going to solve it and it's going to ramp up because that's the future value. He said that before. For me, it's not investment advice one way or the other. You've got to do your own work. Anyway, let's see what Dan Ives has to say.
I think two dynamics going on. One is the demand story, specifically in China. It's that turnaround. I think we saw it so far in 2Q. The big focus will be Musk talking about that second half of the year. And then the biggest thing, too, is pricing. I mean, you're talking about coming that, as we've talked about a lot, cut prices a lot the last year. Now you've seen a stabilization on prices. That's important in terms of the gross margin, call it 16.5%, 17%. But then the big reason the stock's up, it's about that AI robotics play. Robo-taxi day, I'd expect Musk to actually give a date, we'll call it early to mid-October. And these
he did give it a date of the 10th of the 10th of that, the announcement. He changed it from the 8th of the 8th to the 10th of the 10th. So we'll have to see. And as Dan Ives says here, a lot relies on this AI and robo-taxis because the rest of it, honestly, I'll go into this on the other channel, the Art of Value, go into Tesla actual results, but it was pretty lackluster. And, you know, in terms of growth, there's pretty much no growth there in autos. The bright spot was energy, of course, that is, I think it grew 100%, so it's going well, but really a fraction of autos at this point.
These are the important things right now that have really been, I'll call it a bit of a renaissance of growth for the comeback kid, Tesla.
Really, there's not a renaissance of growth yet, not at all.
Important things definitely for the stock and how it trades. I mean, how important, at least anytime soon, is that going to be for the company itself in a tangible way?
Yeah, I think from a stabilization, it's about EV demand. Demand clearly has started to stabilize. And you saw GM clearly pulling back a bit from an EV strategy. Tesla's doubling down. Do they talk about that sub $30,000 vehicle, call it in 2025? Do they give the roadmap?
They did not talk about that. They talked about robotaxi, but no, you know, no timelines on that. So all that stuff Elon didn't really talk about on the call.
To where you could look at 500,000 per quarter, get on that run rate to we'll see 2 million into 2025. Then investors, that stabilizes the story. And then really the cherry on top of the sundae, or really what could be the sundae, is the AI story, the robotics play, FSD, autonomous. That's really ultimately how you get to $1 trillion, $2 trillion valuation.
500
cherry on top of the sundae. Well, it's got to the point where it's necessary because the stock price did run up quite a lot. At the valuation of Tesla, the market cap is pretty high, and so as I said, investors pushing that price down when results came out here. So in terms of what Elon Musk said, he did predict a lot of things. He tried to get things going there with, you know, the future, but investors not buying it so far. We'll have to see.
100,000 per quarter is like up 10% or so from here, we'll call it, right?
Yeah, and up better than down, right? I mean, that's the most important thing in terms of that trend that we're heading toward.
And what are the assumptions about overall EV demand, right? Because the whole story has been, sure, market share of Tesla is going to go from near 100% down to something else as everybody else rolls out EVs. But what's the overall pie growing at this point, or is it growing anymore?
Yeah, clearly slowed. I mean, you saw the boom come off the rose, and we've seen Detroit, in terms of GM, Ford pulled back. Others have pulled back. A lot of the startups have really fallen, off the cliff.
Yeah.
And that
GM just came out with good results. And one thing that he didn't mention is China here. We've got BYD in China. There's the intensity of competition in China is, well, it's intense. And so, and there's tariffs on BYD cars coming into the US, 100% tariffs. So I can't imagine what it would be like if they were allowed in with no tariffs. People say there's Chinese subsidies on that, and the Chinese government is trying to beat, US companies. But has to be said, there is definitely competition in China. Will it be the same for robo-taxis over there?
that has led to Tesla gaining share, but China's really the story. I mean, China's the hearts and lungs of the Tesla story. Stabilization there, despite what we see BYD, NIO, and others, that's going to be the key, showing that we're seeing strength in terms of the second half, but also stabilization from a gross margin. I'm sure LeBeau will talk about that in terms of where you feel like the worst is behind you. If that happens, that's also why right now a lot of bears, they're in those caves, not understanding what's happened to Tesla over the last 3 months. It's really now about that stabilization happening from Musk and Tesla.
Well, stabilization, I mean, he hasn't got the benefit of looking at the results here, but there was sort of stabilization, but really, I think investors are looking at where's the growth coming from, because it's pretty much flat, and it seems quite far away from when it's going to get a boost there. As I said, this is not investment advice at all. I'm not giving any recommendation to buy or sell or hold the stock at all. Don't do that. You've got to do your own work on it, and Dan Ives is just one perspective here.
When it comes to the policy piece of this, of course, Musk obviously very provocatively is out backing Donald Trump for president again. Kind of doesn't mind, or maybe thinks he'd be okay with getting rid of EV credits or whatever might happen in that scenario. How would that play through with Tesla's business?
Yeah, so if you think about the Trump trade, so if Trump ultimately got into the White House, the view is negative for EVs because the $7,500, the rebate would go away.
Yeah.
Negative for GM, Ford, Detroit. The reason bullish for Tesla, that would give them a price and scale advantage. The other thing it's viewed is that if Trump got in the White House, could that fast track FSD autonomous relative to what we're seeing in terms of playing out versus China? On the other hand, if you look at...
Yeah, that's an interesting point. If Trump was president, would that help Tesla in terms of rolling out robo-taxis, in terms of regulation, where the Democratic administration hasn't been that keen on that sort of thing? We will have to see here. Now, by the way, I want to tell you that I'm excited that I partnered with ShareSite as an affiliate to give my viewers, my community, a special offer here. I'll put a link in the description to that, to check out that offer there, to the Art of Value, which is the other channel. And I'll be doing a Tesla, the earnings dive on that other channel later on after this. But ShareSite, if you don't know, is an excellent reporting and tracking portfolio tool where 400,000 investors worldwide trust it to do that. It's a really great product. And so go to this page. I'll put a link in the description to that if you want to. Anyway, for now, let's get back to Dan Ives.
Look at a Harris ticket. Could that be pro-EV for Detroit, maybe anti-Tesla, just because it goes back to the view that Musk has really been a background noise under Biden administration and Trump administration? Is that something that'd be more front and center? And that's why I'd say Tesla's part of that Trump trade to some extent.
And when you say, the potential for fast tracking full self-driving, is that because you feel as if, or the company feels as if, currently regulators are just very skeptical about permitting any of these, further rollouts?
Yeah, well, clearly a lot of noise around Tesla story, and a lot of it, warranted, but the regulatory environment is viewed, if a Trump White House, you maybe have less regulation, potentially could fast track, some of that FSD autonomous, depending where that goes for Tesla. But then it also speaks to what's happened in China. China is the opposite, where you're really seeing that kind of fifth gear in terms on the FSD autonomous side. And that's why I'd expect Musk to talk about the political race going to November tonight in the call. But no doubt, even though bullish Trump where he is, ironically negative for EVs.
Yeah, right.
And that's all part of this Rubik's Cube that investors are trying to figure out.
Yeah, of how the competitive setup plays out. All right, Dan, good to see you.
Well, this is why it's difficult to see with robotaxis. You know, there's a lot of projections there. I just did a video with Ark, Tasha Keeney from Ark, having these massive projections for where robotaxis is going, and she said that they have delayed their actual. Well, not delayed. They've taken down in China, you know, the projections a little bit for tests for robotaxis there because they can see competition there being higher than in the US. But these projections are pretty high all around. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments what you think about what Dan Ives has said here. What do you think that Tesla's gonna be ramping up robotaxis quickly? Elon Musk said it's the important thing for Tesla. Let me know in the comments, and on screen I'm gonna put a link to a video that YouTube thinks that you should watch next. So go and see that now if you want to, and also a subscription link. This is a relatively new channel, so follow along if you want to get notified or to see more. I'm doing these daily at the moment, or I will continue to do these daily, reacting to news like this, and it's Tesla day to day. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.